Good morning, everyone. This is City Council President Brandon Scott. We are now again, unfortunately, at 300 homicides in Baltimore City. And as a city, we carry that pain and that trauma. It's easy for us to be desensitized to this, but we have to understand that these are human lives. They're not numbers, and it impacts every facet, every inch of Baltimore City and everyone in our community. At every council meeting, I ask for a moment of silence to be called for everyone that we lose in violence and even those that we lose to overdose and opioid crisis. This is just a small way that we can root the policy making that we do here in the realities of what we're facing as a city. On Sunday, I asked the Mayor of Baltimore's office to come prepared Tuesday at a public hearing for my council legislation that would demand and request and require a comprehensive crime plan from the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice each and every year in a biannual way to come forth with that, to understand how they're going to comprehensively work to reduce crime in Baltimore, how they're going to work each and every day to work to cure Baltimore's disease known as gun violence. Back in July, on July 18th, when Commissioner Harrison announced the police department's crime plan, both short-term and long-term, the mayor said that in a few weeks, the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice will be prepared to talk about the comprehensive plan to reducing violence. Since then, the mayor has said that there will be no such plan, and there only will be the police commissioner's plan. We all know, even Commissioner Harrison himself has said that the police department cannot be solely responsible for reducing crime in Baltimore City. We know that gun violence and violence in Baltimore is a public health issue that can only be dealt with in a comprehensive way. Yes, we need our police department to be focused on the violent repeat offenders, taking the fight to them, removing people that consistently kill, rob, and shoot people in Baltimore City from neighborhoods. We need them also focused on the flow of illegal guns into Baltimore City, which is also why we're having a hearing about making gun traffickers and straw purchasers and people who sell guns to children illegally, gun offenders in Baltimore City, another piece of legislation that we put forward upcoming this week. But as elected leaders, we have to first and foremost understand that we cannot shake our responsibility. We cannot say that we're not responsible, because it's our duty to make sure that every single city agency, every single city employee is fighting to reduce gun violence in Baltimore. This is not a new fight for me. Long before we were talking about a city in crisis, I was out on the streets and calling for a comprehensive approach to Baltimore's crime problem. Since 2017, myself and my colleagues on the council have now been demanding a plan of action, a comprehensive plan from the mayor's office on how to reduce violence in Baltimore. The former mayor refused to do so, such that the committee itself, the Public Safety Committee, offered to them a crime plan frame called Live to Be More that was based on NOLA for Life, a very successful comprehensive crime reduction strategy from New Orleans, where our police commissioner comes. But we did not get that. It's unfortunate that we're at this point. Upon becoming council president, I introduced legislation that we will have again a hearing from on this Tuesday that will require a comprehensive crime plan, top to bottom, each agency, the health department. How is the city of Baltimore using taxpayer dollars to fight violence in Baltimore from a public health perspective? How are we going to be focused and targeted on the young people that are at risk? How are we going to be doing diversion? What is the Department of Public Works doing to help clean up neighborhoods that we know help contributes to violence and crime in Baltimore City? What is the Department of Transportation doing? What is Recreation and Parks doing? How are we focusing our employment development efforts to target people that we know have a likelihood to go back to a life of crime if we know that we're not providing job training opportunities for them when they return home from prison or even before they return home from prison? This is not simply a policing problem and will not be solved solely through the lens of policing. I invite everyone in Baltimore City to join us Tuesday at 4 o'clock here in the council chambers to talk about that. We're expecting the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice to come forward to us saying they have a plan, that they're going to be moving forward with a comprehensive approach on how to reduce gun violence in Baltimore. It is all of our responsibilities, but only the CEO of Baltimore, only the mayor can direct the agencies to act. We are going to pass this legislation. We're going to make sure that no other mayor in the future will have the option of producing a comprehensive crime plan or not. but we need action now. We need action from our police department, but we also need action from each and every agency in the city of Baltimore. We cannot wait any longer. It's just not acceptable. This is not normal. People are losing their lives. Children are losing their lives. Seniors are losing their lives. And we have to act in a comprehensive way. We have to work with all of our partners at the local, federal, and state level. But most importantly, we must own our responsibility and act now. This is what we're inviting everyone to be a part of. We will not solve this issue alone. We'll need you, the citizens of Baltimore. We will need the business community. We will need the nonprofit community. But we must first start and have a vision and a plan from the city standpoint. And I thank you all for listening today. Questions?
When back in July 18, when Harrison presented the two-part plan, I remember there being a conversation about the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice. Are you saying that it was agreed upon at that time that there would be essentially a second comprehensive plan? Or what was your understanding of what the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice was going to do?
My understanding, Jane, was that the police commissioner's plan is just one portion, right? He's only talking about policing. And what was said that day is that the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice will be presenting the comprehensive portion. The police department's plan, in my opinion, falls into that comprehensive plan. It's one portion. But MOCJ is the overarching public safety agency or directing agency. Will coordinate all the agencies, health, fire, DPW, MOAG, Rec and Parks, DOT, on how they're going to comprehensively reduce crime. When you think about what that could look like, right, that could be looking like how we're going to take safe streets, not just expand it, but improve upon it. Making sure that the young men that they're interceding with and mediating these conflicts, how are we getting them trained to go into other ways of life? How are we using data if we know that we have young people and families that are consistently using people to violence? How are we going to intercede in that in a trauma-informed way? How are we going to try to do family strengthening training programs? When are we going to have a serious, bigger diversion program? How are we going to use the Office of Employment Development to think about, we know who's returning home to prison and who's returning home to prison in our neighborhoods with violent history. How are we going to use that office to go into the prisons, train them for the jobs that we know they could do when they come home, to make sure that we're attacking this issue top to bottom. Anyone else?
To measure success rate, whether it's now or in the future as potential mayor, is it just looking at the number of homicides each year? How do you measure success with violence and crime?
No, of course you have to have measurables for everything that you do. Naturally, you're going to have to measure how violent crime is going. Do you see violent crime going down? But also, do you see people going back to prison? Do you see, when you think about this in a comprehensive way, it's also about the young people that you're interacting with, how they're performing in school. Are you seeing people that were formerly incarcerated and getting better jobs and more jobs and not going back to a life of crime? All of these things and measurables have to be put in place. That's why it's important to have a very high functioning city stat office that's also understanding that violence is much more than just these are much more than numbers. These are the numbers, the people dying are the result of a system that contributes to the violence in Baltimore. We have to, again, remain focused on those people committing those acts of violence, remove them from the neighborhoods. But once the police department does its job in removing them, it's up to the rest of us, the rest of city government, to intercede and put resources into that neighborhood that don't allow for that kind of activity to return.
Yesterday the mayor said that there is no other plan.
Well, we'll see. And what we're going to do is we're going to pass this law to make sure that there will be another plan, because we have to do this. This is now 3 years of this, Jane. Like, you guys will remember infamously that I ended a hearing and walked out because the previous mayor didn't do this. What we're seeing on the streets of Baltimore right now is a result of that failed leadership, of not acting. We can't say that only the police department is responsible for crime. That hasn't worked. That's the way that we've done it my entire life. It doesn't work. You have to coordinate with all of the agencies so that we're making the impact top to bottom.
Have you spoken to the mayor directly about this?
No, I have not. Not recently, but we will. And his agency should be putting their reports in. The reports will be due for the hearing on Tuesday, and we're expecting them to come and say that they're going to not only support the passing of the legislation, but have an action plan. Listen, I didn't say that on July 18th. They said that it would be another plan on July 18th. So if something happened since then, we should be told why and why they're not doing that. We can't, if the police commissioner himself is saying that this is not just a policing issue, then clearly we have to have the other agencies at the table.
You know, the previous administration had their violence reduction initiative, which essentially did, well, at least on a kind of a weekly basis or daily basis. Did that stop? Has that fallen apart?
So I know that VRI doesn't meet every morning as they did, but I also remind you that VRI was actually a response to the council saying in 2017 that there needed to be a coordinated response. But that to me was just surface level. To me, it's about building in the way that the programs and agencies are operating, the way that they're being held accountable, how they're focusing in, where they're focusing. That's a true coordinator, not just, hey, look, someone got shot on the street, is there trash? That should be obvious that we have to do those things. It's also how we're going to work to build each agency's operations to impact crime in its totality. Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you. 4 o'clock Tuesday?
4 o'clock Tuesday.
What's the hearing?